What I hope to do here is to give an illustrative example of working with heritage knowledge on action learning pathways to more sustainable lifestyles. And here, drawing on the example of maRewu as heritage food to inform food security and healthy lifestyle innovation, I am drawing on the work of Sol Shava and Ken Khoza, for example, and I can give you their contact details so that you can have a conversation with them. But in most cases, the actual heritage knowledge is out there. It's in families, around grandparents, and in the children's memories of interactions with them. And often what's really important in the case of fermented grain foods is if the children don't have memories, then they can still relate to the real life of not experiencing these things and finding them in supermarkets, for example. So if we look at an action learning framework approach, how were things in the past, then tuning in can occur around many real life stories and life experiences that the students have in relation to maRewu, as well as you'll find with the handprint care work that there'll be material available through Prevan Chetty down at the Environmental Learning Research Center, and also internationally through the wonderful Center for Environmental Education in Ahmedabad, the home of the handprint approach to ESD, where they'll be available as startup materials that you can get from these websites. And they're useful exemplars, but the best form of Indigenous knowledge work is where you work with real artifacts that come out of a community setting, out of the history in the situation. And we often don't give enough attention to how in Southern Africa there's a tremendous diversity across the Xhosa, not only in the spelling of the words that relate to these Indigenous knowledge practices, but also in many other ways, the way that the practices vary from area to area. So how were things in the past can relate to the early onset diabetes, obesity, and candida that we experience today. And this can provide a foundation for the students to ask, how are things today? And here's a picture from my local supermarket of the maRewu that you can buy there. And most children have forgotten that you can actually make it, that it's something that you buy at a supermarket. And the question then becomes really interesting is, how does it relate to us today? And there are many experiments and examples that you can do with students. And in the Makanda area, what happened was the students drew a distinction between the power aid and the maRewu that you could buy or that you could make for yourself. Because the power aid can produce sugars in the body, the increase of sugars, and associated health risk associated with them. And the maRewu that you can make yourself could be really important here. And what the students did is asked, would you have maRewu after a soccer match, or would you have Powerade after a soccer match? Which would be better for you, and what do these fermented and sugar drinks bring to sport? And you can see that in the exemplar that comes from CEE or from Prevan. How can we make things kind of more sustainable together? And here the key thing that comes out is agency. Can people make maRewu? Is it the Powerade that they would buy, or is it the maRewu they would buy? And here the deliberation and the exploration of health can be achieved in the classroom around either or both or homemade. And there's a tremendous potential in life skills to be able to explore these real life important concerns of diabetes, obesity, and candida, and how the indigenous knowledge that we have already around us, or the indigenous knowledge that we can get from the wonderful work that indigenous scholars like Shava, Kalabandi Konza, Ken Oza, and others are so important to bring into our teaching, to make the teaching touch the hearts and to touch the real life situation. So it drawing on Qina and Hlope, to touch the past with our memories is what we're about here. To feel the future flying in the wings of imagination, and in our imaginations to be able to know and to be able to do things better together, and to have the agency to be able to resolve some of these concerns that confront us in modern life.